just now. Greetings in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. I'm Andrii and here with John and Bill, and we're going to be discussing Green Ray, which is the heart chakra. It's about unconditional love. All right, Bill is going to do an intro.
Hello, we welcome you to this Law One podcast in the love and light of the one infinite creator. This is a teaching experiment founded on unity, harmony, and unconditional love. The topic covered today is Green Ray. We are grateful for those who listened to our teaching experiment. We thank those of LL Research who have channeled and continue to channel and produce spiritual information to this day. We thank those entities of the Confederation of Planets in the service of the one infinite creator that provide the information we wish to discuss. We have no intention of misrepresenting Confederation philosophy. It is our desire to serve through this experiment. We are attempting to learn a topic as a social memory complex. This means we desire and have the goal to teach a topic as a unified and harmonious group. At this point, we wish to make it clear that we are not experts or authorities on any such topic we cover, and we are not infallible on what we have to say. We would ask that you use your own discrimination to determine whether the words and concepts we share with you have value in your spiritual journey at this time. If there are any that do not, we would ask you to lay them aside and think not a second thought about them, and only use those words and concepts that speak to your heart, that speak to your journey that you are on now, as we do not wish to be a stumbling block in your seeking. Thank you for watching. And we start with a JW on the topic of Green Ray. And we'd like to welcome JW as our guest on the podcast. And we are really appreciative that he is here.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Bill. Hey, Andrii. I do go by Jonathan, by the way. My name's Jonathan Tong, and I'm a facilitator for the Seattle One Study Group that meets a couple days a week on Zoom. And I'm delighted to be here. We've done a lot of YouTube recordings with Jim McCarty and Gary and Trish and Austin. And as I've looked at the analytics for our videos, it seems like about 2/3 of our viewers stopped watching after the first 30 seconds. So if you're still watching at this point, audience person, then you're doing great. And we're happy that whoever's watching is watching. Otherwise, did you want me to start off with a passage?
Yes, please.
This is a great passage about Green Ray that I discovered recently. It came from January 2019, I believe. It was September 1st, 2019. And the questioner says, this is a little bit of a long passage, so you can bear with me through this. Questioner says, Earth 2019 is super intense. Many of us out here are feeling the call stronger and stronger of not only our planet, but those who are attempting to use these final days of harvest to try to polarize. How can we help those who want to seek the Creator sincerely, but have found themselves lost, or maybe even intentionally misled? Quote says, in these last days of your third density illusion, in the final days of the fourth density quality of beingness, of love and understanding, you are aware that there is a great variety of entities upon your planetary surface, each of which has incarnated by the seniority of vibration, and that there is the possibility for each to achieve this harvest into the fourth density of love and understanding. These entities are in search of that which you have tasted, perhaps briefly, perhaps fully, and that is the opening of the heart chakra, the unconditional love given freely to all things and all entities about one. If you are able in your daily round of activities to find this open heart functioning as fully as possible with every entity that you meet, every entity with whom you exchange any kind of energy, then this loving vibration that is set up between two of you or more is then felt by each other entity upon the planet that seeks love and light, for you are truly all one being. All entities on the planet, whether positively, negatively, or neutrally polarized, would feel this love if all were conscious seekers of truth. However, because most are not conscious seekers of truth, this love vibration then goes into the subconscious mind of the being to be used as it is possible when this entity is able to realize in any degree the conscious nature of its purpose for being on Earth at this time. This is, of course, as we said, the opening of the Green Ray Energy Center. I think the thing that strikes me most about that passage is how the questioner starts off by saying, Earth 2019 is super intense. It's like, well, just give it 3 or 4 more years and let's see how that goes. It's just amazing that they were thinking that way before the last 4 years or so. So otherwise, yeah, I think it's a great passage that kind of encapsulates or speaks to what I think you're trying to do with this podcast, this transition into third and fourth density, and the encouragement from Quo and our friends in the Confederation to try to use every moment, every interaction with every other entity we meet to open that heart chakra and to learn how to radiate and to harmonize with all around us. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing. Perhaps a good thing to start with. What do you guys think?
Well, for me, if I could, I can bounce off that, and I've got a couple small quotes that I can just back up what you kind of just said. If I can go into that. And I'm just going to read the Raw Contact, session 41.25. And Raw says, Green Ray is the movement through various experiences of energy exchanges having to do with compassion and all-forgiving love. So the Green Ray is compassion, all-forgiving love, universal love. And from Raw session 12.31, Raw says, this instrument also experiences some distortion of the Green Ray Energy Center, which you may call the heart center. It is overly open due to an intensive desire distortion on the part of this mind-body-spirit complex towards service to others, or as you may call it, universal love. So Green Ray is the open center, and the Green Ray opens to universal love and services to others. So what I gleaned from what John quoted and what we're trying to get across is that the Green Ray is basically the heart, opening the heart, and universal unconditional love.
So did I hear correctly? Did he say it was overly open? Like, oh,
yes,
they have a resolution to how to have it a more balanced open, or
yes. Yeah,
I think we were talking about Carla, right?
Right. Her heart ray was so overly open that towards service to others, or as you would call it, universal love. So the way I looked at that is Green Ray, the heart center opens to universal love and service to others.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I did like John, just to say one more thing that about the intensity of 2019, and it hasn't gotten any less intense till now.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think it's gotten any less intense. I think it's steadily gotten more and more intense, and I think we can expect that trend to continue as far into the future as any of us can see at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the love and light of the one infinite creator is growing stronger all the time because we're transitioning to fourth density, and so it's getting harder and harder for any entities to hide anything because things are just becoming transparent in terms of like what's that person doing there, and then you just get the idea. It's like, oh, that's what they're doing. And well, at least that's my experience. I don't know if that's what you guys.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it reminds me of at least a few times I think I've heard Quo or others in the Confederation say that, yeah, fourth density light, what makes it more dense than third density light is that it's more dense and packed with truth. As they say, fourth density light is more full of truth than third density. And as you were saying, Andrii, yeah, as we move deeper and deeper into fourth density, I think a lot of things that people might have tried to put in a closet or hide, they really can't avoid anymore. which is why we see so many weird things happening in the world around us that didn't really used to see before this. And I think, as we said, we can only expect to see more and more polarization as people are going to be compelled more and more to choose one path or the other.
Cool. So I'll just I got a relevant quote. I think it's relevant anyways. From 1990, July 19th. The love of which we speak is that feeling tone that comes from the green ray energy center in a free and open manner, and has as its focus the entire creation about one. It is a quality that which is developed from within the being. The only effect in the outer experience an entity will have on this quality of love is to become the focus for it. To develop the ability to love, one must experience the testing. This is a kind of testing that is similar to the tempering of your metals, that known as steel, for example, by the fire, the flame, the heat. The heat of your experience as you live your incarnation and your ability to process this heat into a light-filled consciousness will then allow one to express the product of this processing, which is that which we have called love. So this passage means to me that we are as we're going through this fourth density and having all of this more love and light, there's more like catalyst, and this catalyst is like a testing. It's giving us more heat, if you will, to get us to polarize more. I know in some other sections they said that this light, it's kind of unpolarized on its own. So like service to self, people use this catalyst to polarize more service to self, and service to others polarize more service to others, and neutrals polarize more neutral. So yeah, with the green ray, like using it with the green ray, they say well, you have to use that love. And I really like that first part of this quote: open manner and has its focus the entire creation about one. So it's that unconditional love for everything and everyone around.
Sure. What does polarizing more neutrally mean to you? I'm not quite sure what that means.
So that means like going deeper into the illusion, at least to me. So I was thinking, for instance, basically it's like going on what's the popular thing, and then it's like, okay, this is the most popular thing, and then like adding in another popular thing, and not doing it from a space of heart or it's of service to me or of service to anyone else, but really it's more of a, like, I think Hitler was a good example of a very neutral entity, in terms of that he wasn't trying to polarize service to others or service to self. He wasn't trying to do things for others or himself. He was just creating an
I
art.
thought he was. Didn't Ross say that was part of the problem? That he was doing intensely service to self things, but actually thought he was serving others?
Yeah, you know what? You're right. That is definitely a part of it. Yeah, but I also remember reading that he wanted to be a painter, but then his dad said, you should do something more useful. And then he went into politics, and then he kind of made it into an art form. So, for instance, like, like a lot of it was, if you, like, I read this book, Hitler's Cross, and like a lot of what he was doing was just trying to fulfill revelation uh, in the Bible. And so, he was very devoutly Christian, and he was just trying to follow this script, like kind of like creating an artwork based on the script that he was given. He was just following the illusion rather than the inner calling of, so the service to others thing would be like not doing it based on rules or external things, but doing like, does this feel right? Like when I feel the other when I open my heart to God and feel the pain of others, is this really helping to do this thing for all beings, all around you, all about you?
Yeah, I would imagine that speaks to the confusion that probably most people feel when they look at all the weird, crazy stuff going on in the world. As he said, the folks who are trying to polarize more positive have lots of opportunities to be of service to others. And the folks who are trying to polarize towards service to self have lots of opportunities to polarize that way too. But the folks who are neutral, who have no idea what's going on, and aren't really trying to polarize one way or the other, that's probably the most difficult, confusing state to be in, I think. Everything just seems really weird and wacky, and makes it easier to just kind of go along with whatever the group is going, with whatever seems to be popular. That would make sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's also with the energy coming in, that the energy is coming in, it's just enhancing everybody, enhancing the negative side, the positive side. If you're stuck in the sinkhole, it's doing that as well. So it's just the nature of the energy coming in. And I'd like to add that as we're going to fourth density, and I don't know if anybody's going to cover this, but fourth density is equal to the green ray or the fourth chakra, as the densities go up, and so like we're in the yellow ray density right now.
Oh,
so that's a point of I don't know if anybody's going to cover that, but I just thought of that.
My understanding was we were already in fourth density since 2012.
Metaphysically.
Yeah, metaphysically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and according to Ra, fourth density actually started somewhere around the end of the 30s, like 1936.
Well, that's when the energies started to go in. But I think 2012 was the point where the fourth energies became stronger than the third density energies.
Yeah, that's something I've never been clear about. For sure, they've said we are in fourth density. It's just that we must be in extremely early stages of fourth density and still transitioning, since clearly we seem to be partly in third density too. I think, as they're saying, the fourth density light is waxing and the third density light is waning.
And didn't Ross say that at the end of the 1935, it would be 100 to 700 years for complete going over? So, we haven't even made it till 2035, and then they gave the 2012 thing a big deal, with the Mayan calendar and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, and I kind of doubt we're going to be fully transitioned in 100 years. That's like the very low end of the time window that they gave. But I don't know. I personally try not to have too many expectations around time frames. That seems to almost go against the spirit of fourth density and the law of one.
We have a YouTube guest, and they were saying green ray activation automatically activates the blue ray, but the indigo ray will take time to activate. Did they think Ross said? I don't know if anyone has a comment on that. But I don't think that's quite right. But I do remember reading something like that, but I'm not sure exactly.
Well, it would make sense that the progressions happen over time and steadily in the way it's supposed to progress.
I think,
one level to the other.
Maybe the clear communication comes easier after unconditional love.
Yeah.
So, John, did you want to get another quote? Maybe just like a paragraph that you like, and then we can kind of dissect it more, because the long passages are more difficult to respond to.
Maybe. And this maybe speaks to what we were just talking about. This is from that same session I was quoting from earlier, September 9th, 2019. Questioner asks, can Kuo speak to the question of how we can, while we are in third density, achieve deep intimacy and connection with each other? Kuo says, I'm leaving out the I am Kuo part. I'm just going straight to the answer part. It is a portion of each entity's seeking in a conscious fashion to hold the desire to obtain intimate connections of love and light with all other entities, and with those especially close in the circle of seeking of such any entity. This desire, this intention, can be intensified through meditation and visualization, so that you may see your heart chakra glowing brightly in the green ray vibration of color, seeing this glow of green love and light expanding outward to those about one, to those closest, nearest, and dearest, shall we say, moving further outward until there is a connection eventually with every other entity upon the entire planet. This is possible because, as you know, you are all one. You are like cells in the body of the one infinite creator. All you need to do is visualize these connections that exist. It is not so much a visualization as it is a realization that such is true. It's a beautiful passage. I always love when as a biology teacher, I always love the references to cells. So they're referencing that we are all like cells in the body of the one infinite creator, and we're all connected, and then we're all one. And that it's not just a matter of visualizing that these exist, but realizing that they are in fact real. So I just always love the phrasing of quote.
No, actually, I've looked at the cells in the body too as the great analogy for the creator. And that's like, why would you hate a cell in your body or judge a cell in your body? It just is
not cancerous, maybe, but
right.
We're talking universal love here, so you gotta love all these cells.
Yeah, and everything's the creator.
Yeah. I like that visual that we're all cells, kind of like in the one infinite creator. Like, and then that really kind of brings to, like, if you think about it that way, then like, how does it make sense for some cells to be going around and hurting other cells? That's, well, I guess there's immune system, but the majority of cells would be peaceful and kind with each other, and there's no reason to have like war or something like that, because then it's just like yourself fighting with yourself. Why would you do that? You should just have peace, unconditional love for each other.
You would think. Yeah, and I think we've all seen photos, graphics of nerve cells that are connected to each other through dendrites and such, like a spider web. And yeah, that visual that we're all connected that way. It just strikes me as funny because I realize often that, yeah, each of us is really kind of like a brain cell as part of the larger universal mind and such. And it's funny that we might ask each other, do you believe that, God exists, or that there's a universal mind? It would be kind of like two brain cells asking each other whether, like, do you think a brain exists? Do you think there's such a thing? It's just funny.
And we can take a look at like an analogy, kind of like has a negative cell or a cancer cell has like the shadow side, but it's still a part of, and do we hate the cancer cell? I mean, we can maybe love it, and then it can get better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have said, I believe Quo has said at least one or a couple times that cancer is largely a symptom or manifestation of anger. When somebody's like internalizing a lot of anger, that is often a root cause of cancer. So it kind of makes sense that if you look at tumors and look at cancer cells, it's like, well, yeah, it is kind of hard to love a cancer cell. It's hard to love something that seems to be intent on destroying you and killing you. And yet it still gets to kind of that root of not being able to see ourselves in the other and to love all unconditionally as a requirement for fourth density.
Yeah, I think it's good to realize that those cancer cells are performing a valuable service, because, well, like you were saying, I usually call it resentment, because I consider anger to be more of a kind of in the moment, whereas resentment is kind of more long term. It's kind of like a grudge. And so if a person like holds on to that resentment, and then it manifests in that part of their body that is symbolic to what they're resenting. So basically that is a communication from, I guess, God, you could say, to the host that there's a spiritual issue, when the person have cancer, and it's saying that, hey, you're holding on to this resentment and it's killing you. You got to let go and forgive this resentment so that you can heal and that you can be well again. and so it really helps with that unconditional love, and tying back to the green ray. If you have unconditional love for yourself and others, then you can more easily heal from any kind of resentment, because you could just
Right.
let it go.
Right.
Mhm.
And again, it's so easy to be angry and resentful because there is so much bellicosity in the world. Bellicosity might be one of the most frequently used words, I think, in all of the channeling transcripts, other than love and meditation, I guess. But yeah, and before the law of one, would have just thought, wow, man, people are just real assholes, I guess. Really violent, criminal people. And
Mhm.
looking at it from a law of one perspective, you realize, oh, okay, well, our population is actually made up of about 16 different planetary populations, many of whom blew themselves up or rendered their environments uninhabitable, like Mars and Maldek and Atlantis. And so that's why there's so much stuff, because there's so much karma, it's so deeply ingrained in our planetary mind. It's really, really difficult to overcome. But
Mhm.
that's the beauty of what you guys are doing and what we're doing, and everyone else who is aware of that and trying to resolve that and clear that and to be able to get past it so that we can.
I think that's a really great analogy, John, because like maybe war is kind of like a cancer, because it's destroying the host organism, and so maybe it's the same thing, that these are just people who have had this pent up resentment for a long time, and they need love and forgiveness to help them heal. Like, I think that is very true with the Eastern Slavic people right now, the Russians and the Ukrainians. I think that a large reason for this conflict is just a large amount of very long-standing resentment that hasn't been resolved, and really the only way we can resolve it ultimately is by helping these people have love and kindness for themselves and for others and for each other, and that kind of stuff, and then it could heal just like cancer.
Oh, and it's all over the country. I mean, between China and Japan, between Middle Eastern country, between Europe and all the countries they colonized and everything. Yeah, it's just everywhere. And again, to imagine for a moment that what's happening between Muslims and Jews in the Middle East, maybe this is actually a reenactment of conflicts that have happened between civilizations on other planets. It's like, that's a really trippy thing to imagine, to contemplate, but could very well be.
And I'd like to add, we really need to, as far as spiritual progression goes, understand how deep this illusion is and how strong the veil is, because people aren't constantly incarnating intending to fall into old habits, but and then the negative side is here that's pushing their agenda, so it all puts this undaunting pressure on people. And I think, like, we're lucky to have come across this channeling by LL Research to teach us the law of one and be able to like stop and consciously take a step back and look at things at a different perspective.
Bill, did you want to do another quote?
Yeah. And I'm going to go off into another direction on the green ray. And of course, I'm using Living the Law of One material from Carla. And from page 188 to 189, it says, "We players have one more hurdle to cross before we can enter our open hearts. That hurdle is the outer courtyard of the heart chakra. So we must get past." So I'm going to go into this Kuo quote from January 3rd, 2006. And Kuo says, "To the untutored eye, there would seem to be a unified and holistic heart that awaits the one who approaches the gateway to the open heart. However, in a point of fact, the heart chakra has two distinct levels. We would call them the outer courtyard of the heart and the inner sanctum of the heart. You come into the outer courtyard of your heart when you are ready at last to face your shadow self. What you have not yet recognized or developed when you're within your full personality meets you in the courtyard of the open heart. It is here that you will find your shadow self. In order to enter the inner sanctum of your own heart, you must do the work of greeting, understanding, accepting, feeling compassion for, and eventually redeeming every bit of undeveloped light that is a part of yourself. So from this, we get 2 levels of the heart chakra, and there's the outer level is the shadow self, and we got to get through that, and we have to redeem every bit of our undeveloped light to reach the inner sanctum. And this is a process of evaluating ourselves, looking in the mirror, and then like really trying to get to know ourselves and looking at the stuff that we've done that we probably wish we wouldn't, the shadow side stuff, and then dealing with it and accepting it and understanding all this stuff on both ends of the spectrum to really get past the lions that guard the inner sanctum and go into the inner sanctum of the open heart.
Yeah, it's a beautiful passage. I know.
I went in that direction.
Well, I've seen many, many references to the inner courtyard and the outer courtyard and the lions that guard the gates. And yeah, it's always been a really beautiful, powerful visual for me. There's maybe a few times a month when I feel like I'm close to in that place, where it's just a feeling of peace and oneness and love that really can't be described in words, and that I spend the rest of my month trying to remember how to get back to that place. It's beautiful. And I think that is very much where fourth density lies in the head for all of us to somehow get to that place. I love the descriptions of Ra when they were asked to describe fourth density, and he said there's no words to describe. We can't tell you what fourth density is, but we can tell you what it's not. It's a place of no conflict, a place of no possibility of disharmony. It just seems so opposite of what the Earth looks like right now, as I experience it, that it seems a lot more closer to the 700-year end than the 100-year end of the time frame. And yet, we know that it is something that's going to happen. It's part of our destiny. As I was telling Bill before we started recording, I think it already exists. It's already there. And as much as we can reach through time and try to tap into those vibrations and anchor them here, the sooner we can.
Mm-hmm. And I really like the resting in all is well and all will be well, and we don't know, like maybe it will be faster. Things can happen quickly sometimes in history. So yeah, we don't know the future. But what really resonated with me in that quote was about finding the shadow self once you're in the inner sanctum. Because there's kind of like one of the analogies I like to think about is kind of like when you open your heart, you feel the pain of others, and like say that you have caused others. And so someone who has, say, been on the service to self path or on even the neutral path, and they may have caused a lot of suffering in their life, and so when they go into that space of the heart and they start to feel the pain of others, then they're like, oh, that was a hurtful thing to say or do or whatever, and then like you feel that pain, and then and that can hurt. And then sometimes people close their heart because they don't want to feel that pain. But the recommended thing to do is kind of to feel it, to feel it to its maximum extent, and then let God help you create a love of that same extent, and of forgiveness and forgiving yourself and those other peoples and those situations, and then thinking about like what is a more compassionate and kind way I can do these interactions in the future, and imagine that trigger point, whatever triggered you to act in a incompassionate way, and then imagine that trigger happening in the future, but then reacting or responding in a compassionate and loving way that is consistent with the heart, and feeling love and kindness for both or all entities involved.
Yeah, and that's where the
And
magic
what
happens. That's where Quo has said at least 2 or 3 different times that I've seen that anytime you are able to change your response to a situation from what would have been the automatic harsh word or angry word or sarcastic word, and turn it into a response to love and compassion instead, with an open heart. I said that is magic. That is by definition magic. That's beautiful.
And I was going to add, what the quote also tells me is that to go into from the into the outer sanctum and into the inner sanctum, it's not an easy process. It is something that you got to work hard at, consciously at. And I think it's a process that's been going on for incarnation after incarnation. So to open the heart and to come into that deep unconditional love, just to start seeing it, because that's basically all we're doing is just starting to get there. It's and understand that the unconditional love of the Creator, start to see it in the unity of all things. It's not an easy process. It can be, but it generally isn't.
Yeah, and it's kind of paradoxical, huh? Because it's like hard work,
Yes.
but at the same time,
Yes.
hard work sounds like something that involves, like, I don't know, contracting the muscles, and this is, to me, like about the opposite. It's about relaxing as opposed to. And I'm sorry, Andrii, to that.
Well, I was just wondering, like, what do you guys see as the difference between the inner and the outer sanctum of the heart? Or like, can you describe them? And like, because I'm a little confused, because Bill was just saying that it's easy to get to the outer sanctum but not the inner sanctum. So I just want to know what's the difference. How do you get from one to the other?
Well, I think it going into complete love and acceptance of just everything you've done, everything you are, everything you think, and then and it's a deep, deep love and acceptance. It's not a bullshit thing. You can't bullshit your way into the inner sanctum. You can't deceive. You can't use trickery. It's really this deep love, and then once you get it for yourself, then you can open it up for others. And then you really, really deeply care about yourself and others and the well-being of others. And you want peace and tranquility and happiness, and you want others to come into the love, unconditional love of the Creator, and you do it as well. So it's just something that you can't do without guile, and that outer sanctum knows when you're in a sort of guile, if you will. So it just is such a pure intention that you have, that you just can't reach these deep, deep levels until and it's by seeing yourself completely, and understanding yourself completely, and then accepting all that and loving all that, and just getting to that place where they're always talking about the I am, just be. It's really easy in words.
Yeah. So I want to read a quote here, to tie this in with the Christian people around me. Here, 2001, February 11th. In Christianity, the basic chakra energy that tends to be activated for the worshiper is the green ray or heart chakra. This is due to the fact that the entity known as Jesus was a teacher concerned with one thing only, and that was love. This entity offered a simple system of beliefs stating, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, and with all thy strength, and thy neighbor as thyself. Upon these two commandments," said the teacher known as Jesus, "depend all of the law and the prophets." In this statement, the one known as Jesus specifically moved from the Old Testament, so called by this instrument, which was the holy work of his people, and delivered and offered a new covenant having only to do with love, love of the infinite creator and love of each other, beginning with the self and continuing with loving the neighbor as if it were the self. And I just really like this quote because this is kind of like these kinds of quotes from LL, really like turned me towards Christianity and like made me kind of interested in it. But I did find that certain churches or many churches don't actually like that message. But I did manage to find one that is good with that message. It was an Anabaptist or a Mennonite church, and so I'm very glad to know that to have these quotes that this love focus that we have it at least in some parts of our traditions.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I was very devout, dedicated, committed Christian for about 20 years or so. Went to church every Sunday, Methodist church, and played in the band with my wife, and have lots of great experiences in the church and raised our kids in the church. But I did eventually leave the church about 4 years ago, I think, just because I was always kind of on the liberal end of the theological spectrum at any church I've ever been to. And I just felt like I didn't want to be part of any spiritual group that was responsible for so much of what I saw as so many negative, bad things in the world. But when I was, when I was in church and even afterwards, I still love that passage that you shared. Those two commandments: to love God with all your strength and heart, mind, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. To me, always got to the very heart of oneness, which I always understood and has been part of my spiritual journey for 40 years. I mean, obviously, if you love God and if all is one, then of course you're going to love your neighbor as yourself, because they are yourself. Everyone is literally yourself. Everyone is literally the creator. So it's just another way of saying it, but it's the law of one. Yeah, it's beautiful. And it would be great if more people in the church actually practiced that.
Mm-hmm. But Bill, did you have any comments on it? Or did you want to move on to...
Well, I just wanted to add...
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, let's move on.
Oh, okay.
Let's move on.
Coming up on an hour. Are we wrapping?
Well, yeah, because on your schedule it says start consensus segment at this time, because we're 43 minutes in right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody? I just want to make it known that like Carla said, there was a shortcut to the open heart, and that's blind faith. And you use like a symbol like Jesus or Buddha or Christ consciousness or unconditional love. And then I want to say that the inner sanctum of the green ray is located in the time-space metaphysical level, and the inner green ray level, when you get into the inner sanctum, it helps develop our spiritual nature. And then that the green ray is the metaphysical equivalent of the heart. Green ray is the seat of love. Green ray, or the inner sanctum, is where the Holy of Holy lies. It's where the place to go when we commune with the Creator, and that the resting upon the energy of the open heart is where the work of the adapt begins. And then we have not covered, and then just to open it more, there's topics of green ray blockages, green ray sexuality, green ray healing, green ray balancing. So there's a lot of stuff that could be covered about the green ray, and we're just barely scratching the surface. I mean, we can do a show on every single one of these topics if we wanted to, So just to let everybody know, this is a pretty immense topic. And maybe we can start with, do we got a final definition? Like Jonathan, could you share a final definition of what the green ray is, or what it means to you the most, however you want to go with that?
Green ray, I would associate with heart chakra. It's one of the energy centers, one of our 7 energy centers, and means, to me, it's kind of at the balance point. You have 3 energy centers below that and 3 above that. You have your red ray, orange ray, yellow ray below that, and you have your blue ray, indigo, violet ray above that. So to me, one of the things that I think strikes me as most important about green ray is it's at the center, and in many ways it is the balance point. And as our friends in the Confederation have said many times, it's not really a good idea to try to work on the upper energy ray centers if you really haven't balanced and unblocked your lower energy ray centers. Things generally don't go well if you try to do like fancy indigo ray stuff and you've still got a lot of unresolved issues and blockages in your red or orange, yellow ray. So to me, green ray is where you reach that pivotal point where everything turns and everything depends on having an open heart filled with pure love and unconditional love before you can attempt to do anything.
And
that's my thoughts.
Thank you, John. And to bounce off that, we know on the negative path, they completely close off the green ray, which is another topic as well. So it's interesting how you put that in balance. And then, and what came to my mind is like, oh, the negative path just completely disregards it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I assumed we were service to others on this podcast.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Need to check my ID here. Sorry.
Yeah. One of the quotes I remember, they were saying that the green ray is there's the red ray launching point, and then there's the green ray launching point. It's like the secondary launching point. Like it's the launching point to the higher chakras, on the service to others path. So like once you have your and we did the podcast on the red, orange, and yellow ray. So that's like once you have your survival down, and you're happy that all is well and all will be well. And then you're not trying to dominate or control. You're just loving and accepting people as they are. And in the yellow ray, that would be loving and accepting them in a groups. And then in the heart ray, so the yellow ray would be loving and accepting your family and your close friends as they are. And then that would you get rid of your yellow ray blockages. And then in the green ray, you're loving and accepting all beings. And so unconditionally. Right. So I guess the service to self would be loving and accepting nobody.
Nobody else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, nobody else, right? So that's how it's completely closed. So
as our friends in the Confederation said, that is an equally valid path.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a choice, and that is kind of the point of third density, is you do kind of have to choose one path or the other. And I think, as they said in one of their recent channeling sessions, that it's really difficult. I mean, that's a really difficult path. It's hard enough for people trying to be service to others just to think of others 51% of the time as opposed to themselves. But it's really difficult for folks trying to polarize on the surface of self path to just totally ignore everything that their heart tells them and to just close the heart down to what they know is a really good feeling, generally speaking, which is love. So
Hmm.
Definitely not a path I would particularly recommend. It doesn't seem to be the path that Earth is.
But yeah, that
And like you
unconditional
said,
love. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And like you said, John, we are service to others, but we're aware of the service to self.
Yeah.
And we respect it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
equally
for
valid.
sure.
Not
And
my path, but it's equally valid.
yeah, our viewer here was saying that that they think the green ray missing is scary, and I just want to note that it's like those fear and anger emotions. That's what these service to self entities want, and so on the service to others polarity, we should be aiming for love, acceptance, and gratitude. You know, and for instance, like we can be grateful that they are providing us this service by being different, and it's a difficult path, and for them, but yeah, to finish the consensus on the green ray, it's unconditional love for all beings, not just your social group, but for everything in creation, including yourself, and inanimate and animate and all that, and all thoughts.
Agreed.
Mhm. Thoughts, feelings, words, and actions.
And I would agree. And I would just add one thing. I totally agree with both of you that in order to harvest and come to graduation into fourth density, we need to. They basically said we're required kind of to open the heart and get into the green ray. We don't have to go into blue, indigo, or violet to graduate.
Yeah.
From what I've seen. Yeah.
Though I did read a quote that you do need at least relatively good balance of your lower chakras. Like they need to be functioning.
Right.
Because in order to have
Right.
green ray energy, you need
Right.
the kind of the stem, working as well. Because if you don't have the stem, then even if your heart is open all the way, it just won't have enough energy in it to graduate. So you need that root in order to have a bright enough heart chakra there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as Bill said in his passage, the lions at the gate won't let you in if you haven't worked out that shit on your lower energy levels. If you still have like deep issues on the red, orange, and yellow level, then you probably wouldn't be able to get into green ray, true green. Yeah, and I appreciate what the person who was watching said. I'm surprised that there's even somebody watching right now. Are there anybody watching us right now?
Yes. Yeah. We've had Andrew's watching us for the whole thing so far. We had another viewer as well. Yeah.
No, I appreciate what he said. That it is scary. I mean, I would think most all of us, no matter how a difficult life we've had, can have at least a few moments when we can think of that we had really positive interactions with somebody else and felt some sort of affinity or friendship or something like love for somebody else, and to think that no, you need to shut that down completely. You cannot love anyone else. You can only love yourself. Yeah, that's a scary prospect. I wouldn't want to go like that.
Mm-hmm. And our viewer here mentioned that Jesus said, if you only loved your loved ones, you're doing just what the tax collectors do, and so I would so that's basically the yellow ray love. The yellow ray love is loving and accepting the people in your family, in your friends, those people that are close to you, and then not necessarily accepting or loving all other beings. So that's a critical difference between yellow ray love and green ray love, because green ray love isn't limited to your friends and family, it's all beings.
Yeah, and our friends in the Confederation have made so many references to the tribalism that seems to be inherent, that we've picked up from our great ape ancestors, that not just your immediate friends and family, but those who you consider to be part of your tribe, whether it's your church group or Democrats or Republicans or your ethnic group or your sports team or whatever. Yeah, that's deep-rooted part of our planetary mind that we are working to get beyond, I think.
I'd like to add one last thing. In Living the Law of One by Carla, on page 218, she said, we need to do three things in order to come into our open hearts. And that's one, we need to know ourselves, even our worst faults. We need to get to know ourselves, even our worst faults. We need to forgive ourselves completely, and we need to accept ourselves unconditionally just as we are. And then if we can do that, we can go on and do it for others. So I always defer to, I've been deferring to Living the Law of One a lot in these podcasts.
That's a great book. It's a beautiful book. Yeah, and Jim is working on the sequels to it. Living the Law of One, 102 and 103, the inner and the outer one.
Yeah.
The lower energy ray centers and the upper. So it's in the editing process, I believe. So hopefully we'll see it sometime in the foreseeable future.
Is there any consensus we can come to? I mean, just or have we gone over it?
I thought we did already. Yeah, I was just wondering if any last
Love
remarks.
is good. I believe we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah. Before Bill does the outro, was there any last things you want to say, John?
No, thanks for inviting me on. It was fun. It was a joy. I hope it worked up to the 3 people watching.
Yeah. Well, and I hope you'll join us maybe next week for the Blu-ray. Oh, we'll talk about it. Okay.
That would be
All right, Bill.
And
you want to do the outro?
We can get and hopefully we'll get other people to participate too. You know, we want to expand it and get other perspectives. You know, have other people have the opportunity to teach and maybe be able to not be so fearful of public speaking and stuff like that, because a lot of people are hesitant to do this stuff just to get themselves out there, but if we want to become a social memory complex, we really need to open up to each other. And I think this is a way to help do it, like we do with your meetings, when we do Zoom meetings on Tuesday and Saturday morning.
That's a plug for the Seattle Law of One group for everyone who's watching who is not aware of that. We can be found on Facebook on Seattle Law of One group, or I think we have a YouTube channel if you search for Seattle Law of One group. But we do meet on Zoom twice a week on Tuesday afternoons and Saturday mornings, Pacific Standard Time, and you don't have to live in Seattle or near Seattle to join. Anyone who is available at that time
and the links are in the description below.
All right, and hopefully we'll have our information we've gone over in the link below too. Do we got enough time for the outro?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, we end this session and are grateful to the audience. In this teaching experiment, we have attempted to learn a topic as a social memory complex that is unified, harmonious, and full of unconditional love, which characteristics are extremely important to us because we resonate with the Confederation philosophy and believe we are, as humanity, forming and becoming a loving, unified, and harmonious social memory complex from planet Earth. We thank the Confederation and LL Research. If you'd like to support LL Research, you can go to their website at llresearch.org to donate and or buy their books and other material. However, all LL Research material is free at their website. We hope this teaching experiment will give one knowledge that will help one see the love in the moment, will help one open their heart more and more clearly see the unity of all. We thank you all for viewing, and please know that we love each other and you. At this time, we leave you as we found you, in the love and light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai Vasu Baragas.
All right.